Hi guys, my name is Barrionuevo, and today I'm going to be reading you Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. It's a great book. I've read it a couple times. I heard it first when I was like 10 or so, as I read it to my younger brother, and I had a blast, so I was just thinking that I'd read it to you guys now. And as I read this book, think about ways that the animals in this book show fairness and how they protect those they love. Alrighty, let's get to this first page. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. "Well, it's time for me to lay my eggs," she said. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Oh, yes, thank you," said Mrs. Seahorse, and she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. "I'll take good care of our eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." So, as Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by... What's behind here? A group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted," replied Mr. Stickleback. "I just built a nest, and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "Well, keep up the good work," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. Look at that nest. Well, as Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. Look at the fish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Tilapia?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know," said Mr. Seahorse. "Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you're taking very good care of them until they hatch." Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. "Well, you must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a pair of leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. Look at that. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Perfectly fine," replied Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "You are doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by... a stonefish hidden beneath a rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "I couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel very proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. Look at that, so long. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "Well, how are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. "Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched, and now I'm babysitting." "Well, you are doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that way, and at last the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back to the pouch. "Oh no," said Mr. Seahorse, "I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." The end. And that's was Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. Pretty great book, right? And did you guys notice that all of these other fish were taking care of the eggs and how Mr. Seahorse thanked each one of them? Gratitude's important, and this book really exemplifies that, and I like it a lot. I hope that you guys liked it, and I had a blast reading, and thank you. Have a great day, guys.